Back on the Newsfeed PM, thanks for staying on. The Commission for Gender Equality has raised concerns over what it calls a significant decline in women's representation in the 2024 national and provincial elections. The organization has called on political parties to reflect on the underlying factors discouraging women from entering the political race. Chairperson of the Commission for Gender Equality, Nthabiseng Sepanya-Mogale, joins me in studio for this conversation and more. Good to have you, Advocate, and thank you very much for your time.
Thanks.
What gave rise to this particular report and the areas which you chose to focus on?
Okay. As you know, we as the Commission for Gender Equality are mandated to look at all aspects of our society that deal with gender equality. So this is one of those, a representation of in public office, to see how far the needle has moved, to ensure that that representation is inclusive and to ensure that that representation reflects the demographics of the country. So it's our mandate. That's what gave rise to it.
Yeah. Let's talk about this issue of politics. I mean, I can remember in the 2024 race at least two organizations that I can name that I did speak to, the ANC and the DA, on gender parity. The ANC saying, well, we've got a 50-50 policy as far as National Assembly is concerned, and we are strong on that. At the provincial level, they're saying, well, if it's not 50-50, at least the premier then becomes female or so and so on and so forth. They are very conscious of that, working around it. DA said, no, we're very inclusive, but of course we run this on merit. What did you find?
We found that the ANC has kept its word. Even at provincial level, they are at 46, 48. But at national level, they're at 50%. Unfortunately, a slight decline from 52.3 to 50. And this decline, I must qualify, was as a result of the Government of National Unity configuration. So there had to be compromises there. But they were well going to be above 50%. The DA, it is worrying because they keep saying, every time you say, let's talk inclusivity, they say, no, we're focusing on merit. As though the women who are going to be brought in would not be meritorious in any way. Yet you find that the women that they have brought in are usually parachuted and they're highly, highly qualified as compared to their male counterparts and the male leaders of the organization. So the male leaders of the organization, qualifications speaking, they're the most illiterate compared to the women that they bring in. So it's worrying that this merit actually only counts when women are concerned or other people have to be brought in. It's almost like they are outside of the standard that they set for others because their standard is very low.
Yeah, well, 2024 also brought in some new players, including the MK party, which when it came in, it didn't have, maybe it did, I just don't know, they'll correct me if I'm wrong, a female wing. It was later on introduced, and that leadership later on introduced. Did that have any impact on how they would have sent membership and representation in Parliament?
Which one, the MK party?
Yes.
No, unfortunately, we didn't go into the MK party, and I think follow-up of this would actually look at that because the MK party, you must remember, has now become one of the top players in the political landscape. So I'm sure it will form part of who or which parties we look at.
Yeah.
Yes.
Generally, when you speak to then that particular demographic, is there no interest to enter the political arena, or do they feel there are prohibitions from entering the political arena?
I think it's not a feeling as such, but it's systemic prohibitions that women are particularly aware of. When you look at what entails campaigning, that in itself says somebody has got to be at home taking care of your children. Every woman politician out there most probably will want a wife, to take care of the home. But the other situation is the principles or the playing field, the rules there are very, very masculine and cutthroat. And I think a lot of women feel uncomfortable because unlike their male counterparts, women come with a clear clear track record of community leadership. So you talk about leaders who then are expected to fight a political fight. And sometimes people don't feel comfortable with that because those two are very, very different.
Yeah, and
Yes.
one would think, I mean, you would want to have them there, and I suppose things like the fight against gender-based violence would benefit from having that kind of leadership. Although men are saying they are trying. I mean, I know December is coming around, we'll have 16 days of activism,
Yes.
and we might have another summit on gender-based violence with the president, and he will tell us of reforms that are happening in terms of our courts, in terms of what's happening at police stations. There are particular rooms that are given to victims of gender-based violence so that they are not exposed.
Yes.
They'll tell us about the number of the Tutuzela centers that have been opened around the country. Well, what's the reality?
You are right. A lot of men say they're trying. A lot of men actually are participating now because they've realized that gender-based violence and femicide has got nothing to do with women only, but rather it's a societal problem that every player has got to participate in. We are the victims and survivors in most instances, but everyone has got to participate. So we do not want anyone to try, but we want everyone to lift their sleeves, roll their sleeves, and work with us. And therefore, that means a lot of the things have got to be mainstreamed rather than a nice to do to get votes. There's got to be mainstreaming. And this mainstreaming means even the political parties' policies have got to be aware and include. But that being aware and including does not mean it must end with the manifesto.
Right.
It must go beyond the manifesto, where you have tools and barometers that political parties have got to put for themselves about all those benchmarks that they have put in place for gender equality, and on an ongoing basis to keep going back to check where are we, how far are we, what are we doing to ensure that we achieve this. Because you'll be surprised, almost all political parties in this country talk very progressively about issues that affect women.
Right.
But in terms of actually implementing and putting in place systems to ensure that what is in the manifestos is achieved, it's another story.
Our criminal justice system is under the spotlight at the moment.
Yes.
Quite honestly, with a number of commissions going on, the ad hoc committee looking closely now
Tell
they're
me
functioning.
about it.
But when you take your own barometer and put a dipstick down, how is this institution called the criminal justice system responding to the plight of gender-based violence?
It has been responding in a very, what can I say, conservative, we know what to do kind of, in the sense that our criminal justice system is reliant on crimes being committed and then a response is unleashed. Whereas in a normal society, we've got to have a society that says, how do we make sure that certain of the crimes that are directed at a significant number of our society do not happen in the first place? Yeah. And only when they happen, then we know that we've got a proper system in place. But we tend to wait for the crimes to happen, and it's not even with gender-based violence. Every facet of our society tends to wait for crimes to occur. When you cross a red light, unless you get caught, it has become a normal. You drive a car without a driver's license. You drive an unregistered car. Our society has been based on, let me break the law until I get caught. When I get caught, I'll deal with it then. You know, and that's the sadness, and that puts unnecessary a weight on the criminal justice system. It talks to arrest, it talks to prosecution, investigation, incarceration, rehabilitation, all of those things. It puts too much pressure. Whereas if people could avoid in the first place, we would have a proper functioning criminal justice system.
Advocate, we appreciate your time. Thanks so much for coming on and for your intervention. That's the Chairperson of the Commission for Gender Equality, Nthabiseng Sepanya-Mogale, joining us in the studio.